Hey, so I want to touch a bit on the Oscars. I did make a previous video and I more or less laid out all the things I wanted to say in that video. But this is like the post video because the ceremony has just happened. Um, UK time is ahead of Los Angeles time, so the ceremony's been and gone now. I actually uploaded a video last night, but it was a bit, wasn't too good, so I deleted it, simply because I wasn't really structuring it so well. So I want to try and get to the point with this. Firstly, I'm going to touch mainly on the controversy aspect of it, but a few non-controversial issues. Well done, Leonardo DiCaprio. I'm happy about that. He's my favourite actor. I think he's the greatest actor of his generation. His Best Actor award is long overdue. I think that pretty much everyone agrees with that. Um, I really do think the word great gets thrown around a lot, but pretty much every film DiCaprio is in, the diversity the guy shows, the sheer passion he brings to his work. That I just think he's a great actor. Um, and he's actually a personal inspiration to me in many ways. I also think that his acceptance speech was very refreshing insofar as, the sort of typical Oscar acceptance speech is kind of a very sentimental tract of, oh, I want to thank my family, I want to thank the director. No, that's fine, that's fine. It's politeness, thanking the people that got you there. But with DiCaprio, he used it to discuss climate issues, which obviously his latest film, The Revenant, is set in the wilderness of, doesn't say explicitly where, I believe it's South Dakota, something like that. But he's standing by his convictions, and it was a very original speech in that sense. Um, he said, "I'm very grateful for this, and I'm not taking this night for granted. Let's not take the planet for granted." So I like that. Um, anyway, to get to the controversy, I'm not going to touch very much on this because I more or less said the things I wanted to say in the last video. The last video got cut off because that was a time when my laptop was still experiencing problems. So it did get a little cut off in the last few sentences, but I more or less said the main points that I wanted to get across. I watched a segment of Chris Rock's introduction. I couldn't watch the whole ceremony because you have to pay per view or whatever. But I did watch a segment of Chris Rock's introduction. Now, no, Chris Rock is from a comedy background, so I think he was good for the host because if you got someone like Spike Lee, I don't think he could have pulled off kind of reaching out to both sides in that way. And I think Chris Rock done a very good job insofar as, realistically, he couldn't have ignored the debate. He just couldn't have done that. So he did touch on it, but he used humour to do so. And he kind of pitched for both sides because he was indicating that he was in favour of the campaign to some extent, but he also said that he was making jokes about back in the 60s when there were really important issues the black community was facing. Um, he had some edgy humour. And I think he done. I quite like the approach he took. I will say though that a black guy can make racist jokes about white people, and everyone thinks it's funny. Now, if a white guy said the same thing, because he made a joke, for example, about the supposed lack of good white athletes. The thing is, I really, really, really don't care because I don't like political correctness. But what I do care about is the double standards. If you've got a white actor saying something along those lines about black people, it would be an absolute meltdown. So that's something that is noticeable. Um, yeah, he was talking about the main issue is the lack of opportunity. Now, that's something I want to touch on because it's something that is used time and time again to justify this campaign. And he said that the racism in Hollywood is sort of like a sorority racism. Now, I'll try and be objective here. I think it would be wrong for me to say there's absolutely no race issues in Hollywood. I'm not an actor, so I don't know the industry. I'm a lover of film. I only know it from an external perspective. And secondly, an institution that size is going to have some flaws. So I'm not going to sort of say that it is perfect because I don't know that for a fact, and common sense dictates that an institution of that size is going to have some shortcomings. Um, but you can make the argument that there are white actors that have also been overlooked, and that they have been typecast in certain ways. Maybe because they look in a certain way, they have a certain, maybe they have a certain facial expression that always gets them typecast as villains or as secretive agents or whatever. The opportunity thing I want to address, he actually used DiCaprio as an example. He says Leo gets, and it wasn't spiteful, it was like good natured, but he says Leo gets nominated every year, or Leo gets great roles every year. And then he used the counterpoint to that, that Jamie Foxx was in Ray. That was 11 years ago now. So I think the point he was making was that black actors don't get the same sort of roles. I have mixed views on that because I have seen black actors and actors from other ethnicities in a wide range of roles. I've seen black actors play doctors, play athletes, play politicians. Um, so I think if you're going to talk about the issue to do with opportunity, you have to define exactly what that means. I'm not just talking about Chris Rock, I'm talking in general terms. Because there's been similar debates here, like I mentioned with Gemma Chan and Katie Lung. They've complained about the lack of opportunity. But, the thing about acting is actors, no matter how good they are, I think they have to accept that they can't just get whatever they want. It's a competitive industry. And if you're a director and you're scouting for, or I guess it would be the producer's job, if you are looking for actors to fill certain roles, you're going to be looking for something that is marketable, and realistic. I do appreciate that there are times when I forget the film and the director, which is annoying because it's a good example, but the director that I'm thinking about said that, yeah, it was gods, and it was that film about Moses and Ramesses. The director, I believe it was Ridley Scott, was criticized for not casting African actors in the roles or Arab actors. He said that he wanted, like, it was a marketing issue because if he's trying to market that in different countries, I think he used Spain as an example, it's a lot harder to market something if you don't have well known actors. So he could have, taken African or Arab actors, but if there's no name recognition, it's going to be hard to market. Business comes into this as well. Just like the boxing world, you know, um, you can have two fighters that are great fighters, but one fighter gets paid a lot more than the other. Now, that on the surface doesn't look fair, but again, it's a marketing thing. If one fight is better known than the other, he's going to be marketing the fight more. Hence why Floyd Mayweather always gets more than his opponents. Um, so, that is an unfortunate cold side to the business, I guess. And the thing is, I am a passionate believer in opportunity. I just think it needs to be clearly defined what they mean by that. Because I don't believe, for example, in a black actor playing Theodore Roosevelt to give him opportunity. Because Theodore Roosevelt was a famous person who happened to be white. It would be just as ridiculous if a white actor was cast as Martin Luther King. It just would be unworkable. So, especially in historic films, you need realism because it's patronizing to the viewers to say, well, we're being politically correct about this, but you have to accept it when you know your history, and that just is not the case. So, people need to accept that, the visceral side of things does matter. Maybe it shouldn't, but it does because if you are a very overweight person, you're not going to be, you know, cast in a certain way as as a really romantic figure in the way that a really beautiful or handsome actor will be. Um, Sorry to be blunt about it, but I mean, take me for example, right? I know I'm not that good looking. If I was an actor, I could probably be acting my ass off. I don't know. I don't know if I'm a good actor or not. But my point is, there's restrictions to some extent on every actor and actress. I really believe there is. Older actors and actresses are restricted because of their age. So when we're talking about opportunity, it needs to take into account opportunity as a general concept. If there is a situation where black actors are not landing bigger roles simply because they're black, that is clearly wrong, and something needs to be done about it. But my concern about this whole debate is you end up in a situation where it's just based on quotas rather than talent. And it ends up that actors and actresses are seen through the prism of their race rather than their ability. That's a problem. Now, Chris Rock, like I said, he brought humor into it, and it's good that he did because this has been quite a divisive issue and it has provoked strong views on both sides. I hope it will be resolved now. I hope this thing won't rumble on next year. But the problem is, if there are black actors and actresses nominated next year, people will say, "Oh, it's just because they're black." And the thing is, I really don't think that would be the case. I think there are plenty of talented black actors, and by the way, talented Asian American um, and Hispanic actors as well. I touched in the last video on the idea that, this argument that there's a lack of diversity, but what they're really saying is there's a lack of black diversity. Because there is, diversity in other ways. Alejandro Iñárritu is a Mexican director. There's a film about a transgender person. So there's other examples of diversity within the ceremony. And I'm going to leave it there because I'm just going to be repeating things to say. Feel free to have a view. You can definitely disagree with me. All I would say is keep it respectful. Anyone slandering me as a racist will be deleted simply because I'm not going to have my name dragged through the mud with lies. I'm not a racist, and I think I've tried to be very open minded in the way I've approached this subject. Um, so yeah, feel free to have a view, but don't slander me. Don't even try it because I'm not going to allow a platform for people to basically spread misconceptions about me or voice misconceptions about me without actually listening to the words I'm saying. If you think I'm factually wrong, okay, I'll listen to your argument. And I have to say, in the last video, there was some quite civil dialogue, so that would be nice to occur again. So, well done, Leonardo DiCaprio. I haven't seen Brie Larson's performance, so I can't comment on that. But well done, Leonardo DiCaprio. Chris Rock was a good host. He brought humor into a contentious issue, which is always nice. And yeah, hopefully the circus is over now, and next year will be a lot more normal.